Hey guys, it's Maple here once again, and for the past few days I was playing Molten Strike for the first time in quite a while. I kind of took it upon myself as a bit of a, I don't know, personal vendetta, as I'd seen lots of people say in many different places that build variety sucks or something, and Molten Strike was often cited as one of the examples of like a dead build or dead archetype that just, they're sad about, that Molten Strike used to be amazing and can't play it anymore, and shit game, etc. You know what I mean. So I kind of wanted to just see what the state of Molten Strike was in, and see if it was still playable and worth playing in general. And this is the attempt that I went with, which is a Molten Strike Berserker. So I went basically pretty close to maximum attack speed, without going overboard. We're at about 17 to 20 attacks a second at the moment, and just with a savior, so even more balls, and just pretty standard setup otherwise, using Trinity. For half my damage is fire, half of it is cold, and it seems to be working out pretty well. I am using the Threshold Jewel pretty much all the time at the moment, even for bossing, because we don't need much bossing damage at the tiers that I'm at. And it seems to be working just fine. We've got several million DPS here or there, and the clear on Molten Strike seems pretty damn fun and nice. As you can see, there's just one extra chain. That's what the Threshold does, so an extra bounce on the ball instead of just dropping straight to the ground, and that helps on clear just a little bit more, but you can go even more balls and bounces and stuff if you really want to. But in this attempt as a Zerker, it's pretty tough to get everything rolled into the build at once, though I could obviously be using a Grellwood Shank, given that my current weapon is a sword I was going to multi-mod and still haven't. So the entirety of these clips is using a savior plus a 200 DPS sword, and at this point that's more than good enough. Everything up to like tier 10, 11, 12, something like that has been falling over pretty comfortably with a budget ass weapon. And as well as that, the savior itself, I have noticed just while playing, and then especially while making this video with some of the clips, doing basically nothing. So it's only really going to help on single target. The savior clones themselves are rarely, if ever, doing anything for a build like this during clear, but for single target it should help do extra damage because they get the chance to get in there and attack. And as you can see, the cascading of balls is pretty damn satisfying, especially with the MTX at the moment. It's like this little fountain of balls just comes out, and it's pretty cool to look at. And as well as that, I do feel that strike skills have some pretty good tools at their disposal at the moment. So as you can tell, I am attacking pretty far away at times, and that's because there is a lot of strike range on the tree, or strike range to be getting from various sources these days. And that means that you can, if you really want to, you can get your strike range without too much investment too damn near off screen, and it's pretty ridiculous. You become a fairly ranged build, and it does solve one of the biggest problems of melee and strike builds, and that is not being able to attack certain things at certain times because you have to be point blank melee. And in this case, I've got a little bit of strike range, and I can do close to half a screen away, so it's pretty nice for like closing the gap and being able to attack certain bosses or enemies without needing to be necessarily on top of them. I've also got one additional strike on gloves and Tribal Fury from the passive tree, so I don't need to use Ancestral Call, but you could still do that in some builds and have even more viability. I'm also using Behead, which gives me some small Headhunter steel type buff, but as well as that, some strike range. So far, all in all, it's been pretty damn good. It's been fun, and I'd say Molten Strike can definitely be viable. If I was to revamp some of the stuff I learned while playing this, I'd say going an actual proper claw raider or something like that with lots of life gain on hit. No need for a savior. I think that would be pretty damn cool and viable at the moment as well. we'll of course wait and see how things pan out when I do some single target and some bossing. But so far, Molten Strike, I've been a fan. So let's go into how I've built it so far. So here is the character level 87 Marauder called Drowning in Balls. It is a Berserker, and that is purely because I wanted maximum attack speed from Rage and Blitz. And using Brittle technology with Secret Suffering, as you know, we do many times these days, it is pretty realistic to still up your crit cap, to cap that is, and not feel the after effects of Blitz too badly from that reduced crit, though I don't think I'm currently at crit cap. With all that said, I didn't really want to take extra damage at the moment in this league, because Scourge can be pretty kind of terrifying, and I don't think it was very necessary. Wanted to go ahead and try this sort of shit. So what we're building around is a Savior, you know, the usual sort of melee weapon, feels pretty good. And currently, like I said, a sword that I will be multi-modding but have yet to do so. It's just got Warlords and a Essence attack speed. So I just grabbed a bunch of Deafening Essences of Zeal. They're like 3 or 4C per attempt, and eventually got something, annulled something that I could have, and yeah, this is the result. Should end up being about a 450 DPS sword, which is pretty good. Otherwise, you know, this type of sword finished off costs anywhere from like 1 to 3 exalts. But you could do things like Grellwood Shank. You could do some other alternatives. Like I said, I'm fairly sure something like a pure claw version with lots of life gain on hit would feel extremely thick, because at the moment I've gone out of my way to try and get some life gain on hit just from rings. So I've got about 40 at the moment, and it feels extremely durable with the amount of balls I have on screen at the moment, and that's not that many because I am using the Wildfire, which cuts the projectiles you have in half, and then gives you that additional chain, and that's still a lot of balls, and that still gives us a lot of sustain, and means that if I'm attacking, as long as I'm not getting one shot, I'm basically not going to be dying. So that feels pretty good. So what we're looking at the moment, Molten Strike, I did go the Divergent range for an extra 2 melee strike range. At this level, it's got 8 now. Then using Behead over here gives us another 5. It's not necessarily the best support to be using, and it is a bit wonky with the way you steal things and then overroute them almost immediately with another something, but you might get lucky and steal something good when you come onto a boss fight and then keep refreshing it. So far it hasn't really been impactful, honestly, but 48% more against low life, which is 50% or less, so it's still a decent support gem, and then gives some strike range too. I've then been using just early damage with attacks, Divergent, so that gives us Mana Leech, Trinity, and then GMP and Multi-Strike. So we do have more balls at the moment, currently at 5 projectiles. If you take this out, we are at 3. So currently it helps, but you know, you could do a different support. You don't have to necessarily go as much around the ball way of building. But for single target, I assume I take out Wildfire, and then I'll have 10 balls going off on the screen, and hopefully with something like Point Blank and maybe some slow approach, it will be good. We'll have to wait and see. The gear, you know, some nicer things, I suppose. I bought a chest that just has some life and attack crit, and then I think I annulled something, and then I think I slammed Fire Res. I think that's how it happened, but basically I just wanted spare prefix for some life. Probably a lot of ways you can go with the chest. Lore Weave, Replica Lore Weave, both pretty good. For rules, chests like this, some extra curse as well, all kinds of stuff. Gloves, I just went ahead and spammed with some essences, I think, until I hit something. Maybe. I can't remember. But essentially just looking for additional strike skills. Target enemy, and finally got it. I had an extra suffix, and I decided I'll try and annul. Got rid of the suffix, and then managed to craft attack speed. And this is the result of that entire interaction. Otherwise, you could Maven for even more strike skills, would be pretty damn good. The Maven Orbing, or make a different pair of gloves with, I don't know, some higher life accuracy. Beggars can't be choosers, and I liked this glove enough to keep it. Tried to craft a hat where I could utilize my attempt at helping single target, and that is for some Rage Vortex. So I do have Rage Vortex as a sort of single target alternative, though so far it hasn't been necessary. Molten Strike has been good enough by itself, but the idea is to be Molten Striking and then throw out one Rage Vortex occasionally and then keep Molten Striking. So it's a pseudo 6-link helm. It's got Conk Effect and Fizz as lightning, since I was using the essences to do that, Essence of Insanity. And then I've got Rage Vortex, Trinity, Melee Fizz, and Close Combat. Close Combat I'll probably try and remove something else because we're not always that close. But otherwise, yeah, I'm hoping this works out to add a bit of single target, since I do have 70 Rage in the build quite often. I'll hope that it just, if my single target or Molten Strike sucks, helps out in that case. Boots, made some Tailwind boots. As you know, we probably all know you can make some pretty disgusting boots these days with the right capital, using Awakening Orbs, Maven Orbs, prefix cannot be changed, Veils, all that sort of shit. Basically, I just hit Tailwind. I had no other suffixes on it, so I ended up putting some suffixes on with Hunter, Exalt, Bestiary Craft things. Got some pretty crappy suffixes. Did suffixes cannot be changed, and then Veil Orbed and just got movement speed thing and kept that. So pretty nice boot, but you know, nothing special on this day and age. Grabbed a belt and put some catalysts on it, which doesn't matter while crafting, but just saves you some cost. And then I believe I was using pristine fossils, or pristine and serrated fossils, and just got a couple of good rolls, and then decided to prefix cannot be changed and Veil Orb once again, and got the Cold and Chaos, then used the Hunter Beast Slam and got Fire Res, and then finished it off with some Res. So pretty good overall there. This amulet I just bought for like 20C or some shit. It didn't have Chaos Res, and then I put Chaos Res onto it using a Elder Hunter, Elder Beast Slam. Essentially, they're just recipes that you can get for certain beasts, and it gives you the ability to basically exalt one of these items. It's an influenced item, and just saves you the cost of an exalt, because it does exactly the same thing. It just lets you exalt an elder item, not with an elder mod or anything. It could happen, but it's just basically an exalt, and it's, you know, total cost something like 25C instead of an exalt. So we hit Chaos Res, and pretty nice amulet, but the Fizz's Fire is not heavily in demand, so they are on the cheaper end. And then I grabbed a couple of Elder Steel Rings and just went to town with pristine fossils. Got something like this, bit of life regen, life gain on hit. With enough life gain on hit, like I said, pretty damn good for Molten Strike. You could use Vitality, life gain on hit, Watcher's Eye. You could go Claws, but so far just 40 is pretty powerful. I then grabbed an Assassin Mark Ring and the life gain on hit from an Elder Ring and fused them, and this was the result. So decent little ring, nothing too special, but yep, bit of starting capital to get the build going. And then some flasks. Can get some pretty powerful flasks these days with the right mods. Rolled 16 attack speed on this one and crit, 43 crit on this one, and crit chance as well, and then just pressing one flask to get all of them going. As for the tree, it is difficult because there are so many things we want on the tree as a strike skill, and it gets a bit bloated. So in this case, I'm just going up here for the Rage. I've got the melee strike range using Iron Grip for extra ball damage. Currently just using crit multi with some mana gain on hit for our sustain on mana. Life, some melee hits fortify. It's a pretty nice addition to the passive tree to be able to just perma fortify yourself without having to worry about using it on a travel skill or anything like that. Some more crit, melee strike range. There's big melee strike range wheel over here, which I had while leveling, but got rid of because, you know, don't always have 5 nearby enemies, and our strike range was pretty good already. Frenzy on hit on unique enemies, so that's pretty damn permanent. We'll probably get rid of this and yoink that because we are close to it. But yeah, can get more life. This works as well. Projectile attack skills have 50 crit and 30 crit multi, so that just works for the entire attack. But we are careful to not get something like melee crit multi, because that won't apply to the ball portion of our skill. This node, just for 10 extra fizz random element, and then converting half our damage to cold. And yeah, still kind of squishy, I guess, at the moment with life, but it doesn't get us in trouble very often. This amount of life is probably decent enough while we're perma-fortified and have really good sustain, but we could still go higher. And depending on how well the DPS goes, I could honestly probably drop a bunch of DPS for some survivability and have a more well-rounded character. But we'll see. So far, this weapon's holding up well. We'll see how it goes. And if you want to know what the cosmetics are, just Demon, Parasite, Gore, the current reward Scourge thing with Subjugator, Fire Cloak, couple of horns, and yeah, it's kind of my little Diablo look that I like to use occasionally. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and it's Molten Strike. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.